For 14 years, you have been talking to Siri, and for most of those years, Siri has been the punchline. Ask it something hard, it would hand you a list of web links and wish you good luck. This week, Apple stood on stage, admitted it, and then tried to fix it. Hello, I am Mahesh Devalla, Chief Technology Officer, author, and strategic advisor to companies on AI across the US, Europe, and India. You are watching AI Edge with Mahesh Devalla, where every week we turn AI chaos into clarity. This week, Apple reinvents Siri and bets its comeback on a rival's AI. OpenAI files to go public and announces its own secret. Anthropic builds a powerful model and then Microsoft bans its own staff from using it, which later is stopped by US government for security concerns. A company loses its CFO and CEO in the same year. A little bit of details on the data centers that power the AI boom. Let's get into it. At its developer conference WWDC on June 8, 2026, Apple unveiled the next generation of Apple Intelligence and an entirely new Siri rebuilt from ground up.
So we've rebuilt Siri with powerful AI at the core. And today we're introducing an entirely new version of Siri, unlocked by Apple Intelligence. We call it Siri AI.
It is the biggest change to the assistant since Siri launched over a decade ago. And it is arriving across everything Apple makes: the iPhone, the iPad, the Mac, the Apple Watch, and the Vision headset too. All under this year's software, which is iOS 27. Apple's own description is that this Siri is profoundly more intelligent, knowledgeable, and capable, and the timing is subtle too. For 2 years, Apple has watched ChatGPT and Google race ahead while its own assistant stood still. So this was less like a product launch and more like a public apology with a roadmap attached. Here is the part that tells you how serious Apple is on AI. This is Tim Cook's final developer conference as CEO. He is handing the company to his hardware chief, John Tennis, on September 1st, 2026. So Cook chose to spend one of his last big moments on stage betting his legacy on getting AI right. So what this new Siri can actually do? Honestly, the demos were the part that turned heads. The old Siri set a timer and told you the weather. The new Siri is built to take actions inside your apps and across them. You can ask it to find a photo from your trip, edit it, and drop it into a message in all one sentence. It understands what is on your screen, so you can point at something and simply say, "Hey Siri, what is this?" Sounds familiar, isn't it? Please let me know in the comment section if you have seen this feature somewhere else too. Additionally, it can chain tasks across different applications without you lifting a finger from your phone. Actually, two changes matter most here. First, Siri now has a deeper understanding of your personal context, the name, the places, the routines that fill your life, so it can actually act on them. Second, Siri is getting its own dedicated app for the first time in history. A single place to have a real, flowing conversation instead of summoning it in a panic mode and hoping for the best. Apple is calling this the biggest upgrade Siri has ever had. And on the evidence of the demos, it is not marketing. It looked good. It is the assistant people assumed Apple would build years ago that finally showed up.
So Siri is now a profoundly more capable assistant that helps you find what you need and gets more done. It's also more conversational, so you can go back and forth like never before and get detailed, engaging answers. As you have these rich conversations, you can refer back to them with a new dedicated Siri app. And not only that, now Siri offers helpful visual intelligence across platforms, along with integrated tools so you can write and edit with Siri virtually anywhere you type.
Now here is a twist Apple did not exactly put in lights. This smarter, more conversational Siri is not running purely on Apple's own technology. Under the hood, it is powered by Google's Gemini running through a custom version built for Apple. Apple's own foundation models handle a great deal on the device itself, and the heavier work runs through its private cloud compute, which is designed to keep your data private. Let me simplify that for you. All your AI runs in your phone, and the data is private and secure. And one more additional context, the engine of new Siri still belongs to Google. And just sit with that irony for a second. Apple spent its whole keynote proudly telling you that Siri will no longer hand your questions off to outside chatbots like ChatGPT or Claude. And that part is still true, it will not, but only because it now quietly runs on the AI of one of its biggest rival in smartphone. Apple, the company that famously loves to own every layer of its product, just went out and rented the most important one to Google. There is a serious point underneath the joke. Building a frontier AI model is so hard and so expensive that even Apple, the most valuable consumer company on earth, decided it is better to partner than to build alone. This tells you something about the scale of this race in the AI world. Now to a part of Apple's announcement that matters for every parent watching, and Apple handled it really careful. Alongside the AI, Apple introduced its biggest expansion of child safety tools since Screen Time launched back in 2018. A new feature called Ask to Browse flips the open web on its head. No website in Safari is reachable by a child until and unless parent approves it.
This year, we're expanding what parents can approve beyond apps to the web with Ask to Browse. Kids need to ask when they want to view a new website. Parents can take a closer look before approving. This works seamlessly across iPhone, iPad, and Mac with Safari.
Another feature called Time Allowances lets parents set smarter schedules for different kinds of apps, games, social media, entertainment, instead of one blunt limit for everything.
With time allowances. Now, front and center are entertainment, games, and social media, with a daily time allowance recommendation that spans all three, giving parents a helpful starting point. Each of these categories also has its own time allowance recommendation to start with.
But the most important piece is the one you never see. When a child is sent an image in Message or FaceTime, the phone itself checks it for nudity, and now in iOS 27 for gore and violence too, and blurs it before your child even lays eyes on it.
Communication safety warns them and blurs the content. It even works on live FaceTime calls. This year, communication safety also intervenes before kids can see gore or violent content in shared images or videos.
And here is the part that matters. That check happens entirely on the phone. The image is never sent to Apple servers on any other servers. So your child is protected without anyone watching over their shoulder, thanks to computer vision. There is also a clever tool for app makers called the Declared Age Range API. It lets an app know roughly how old is its user, a child, a teen, an adult, so it can adjust what it shows without even learning the child's actual birthday. Here, privacy and protection are working together. Such an astonishing feature, Apple, kudos for you to introduce it. Actually, that did not happen in vacuum. These features landed the very same morning that the UK government gave Apple and Google 3 months to build exactly these kinds of protections. With the threat of new laws, if they did not, Apple might have a problem. So this is Apple moving early, yes, but also Apple reading the room early too. And here is my takeaway for you as a parent told straight. A smartphone is not a gift you hand a child once and walk away from. These tools are genuinely good and they are worthy setting up properly, but they work best when paired with something no software can replace, which is an honest, ongoing conversation about what your child is watching and doing online. The phone can blur an image, but blurring an image doesn't solve the problem. Make time for your kids, sit down with them, Get interested in their habits, find a hobby you can share. Because the childhood of theirs is so precious and it goes by so fast. That is one thing in all of this you simply cannot afford to miss. So far, if you are liking the video, please like, share, subscribe and let me know in the comments if there is any feedback for my team. One more interesting feature I personally liked in this year's WWDC is iOS 27 checks for your passwords that are compromised and tries to reset them in Apple's native app called Password.
The Passwords app to upgrade your security using Apple Intelligence. But going to each site and changing them can take time. Now, you can automatically update eligible accounts to strong passwords with just a tap.
A nice feature indeed. I would like to try that when it's live. Last week, Anthropic filed to go public at nearly $1 trillion. This week, its biggest rival did exactly the same thing. On June 8, 2026, OpenAI, the maker of ChatGPT, confidently filed for a US stock market debut. The company is worth around $852 billion today, and some analysts think it could cross $1 trillion once it lists, putting it next to Anthropic and next to SpaceX, which is already on its way to market. And here is what you are looking at. 3 of the largest stock market debuts in history lining up in a single year, which is 2026. But the best part of the story is how OpenAI announced it. A confidential filing is supposed to be confidential. Instead, OpenAI wrote a public blog post about it, and the reason they gave might be the most honest sentence a company has ever published. And I am quoting that, "We recently submitted a confidential S1 which is expected to leak, so we are just announcing it." Now let me put that bigger picture in context. For years, the only people who could buy into these AI companies were a handful of private investors. Going public changes that completely. It means everyday people and the index funds sitting inside the pensions can finally own a place. But it could cut both ways, because for the first time, OpenAI will have to show the whole world its real revenue and real losses. The mystery ends the day that prospects goes public. And there is a sharper edge here too. OpenAI is filing from a spot that is not quite as comfortable as it used to be. As we talked about it last week, it is slowly losing its lead with both consumers and businesses to Google and to Anthropic. So think about what that means. This is a company raising money for a very expensive war at the exact moment when its rivals are catching up. Now to Anthropic, the company behind Claude, and a story that escalated 3 times in a single week. It starts on June 9, 2026, when Anthropic launched its most powerful public model yet, called Fable 5. It sits in a new top tier. The company calls it the Mythos class, built with deliberately hard limits around the most dangerous areas, things like cybersecurity, biological, and chemical risks. And to make the safety work, Anthropic added a new rule. It now keeps a copy of what you type into the model for 30 days, so it can catch novel attacks and jailbreak attempts. If something gets flagged, the data can be held for up to 2 years. Now here is the first twist. The very first casualty of that public safety policy was Microsoft's own employees. Just 1 day after Fable 5 launched, Microsoft told its staff that they were not allowed to use it. The reason? Microsoft lawyers were not comfortable with that 30-day retention, worried that sensitive company secrets could end up sitting on Anthropic servers. And just sit with how strange this is. Microsoft sells Claude Fable 5 to its own customers through GitHub Copilot and through its Azure cloud. It is happy to hand the world this model, but it will not let the people who built those very platforms touch it inside the building. The chef is cooking the dish for every customer in the restaurant and quietly telling his own kitchen staff, "Do not eat this." That's the irony of this story. It turns out that was a small twist. 3 days later, on June 12, 2026, something happened that has never happened before in this industry. The US government stepped in. Citing national security, it issued an expert control directive ordering Anthropic to suspend all access to Fable 5 and to even more powerful sibling Mythos 5 for any foreign national anywhere in the world. And to actually comply with that, Anthropic had no choice but to pull the plug for everyone. Let me explain what that means in plain terms. A leading AI company has now taken its most powerful publicly released model offline, not by choice, but because the government told to do it. The order landed around 5:21 p.m. in the evening. The letter did not even spell out the specific concern. Anthropic's understanding is that the government believes someone found a way to jailbreak Fable 5, a way around its safety guardrails. And here is the part that makes this bigger than one company. Anthropic is complying, but it pushed back hard. And its argument is worth hearing. The company says pulling a model used by hundreds of millions of people over one narrow potential vulnerability sets a precedent that should worry everyone. Because if that becomes the standard across the industry, Anthropic warns it could essentially freeze new AI models launch from every company going forward. So look at this whole arc of this in 1 week. A model is launched as a triumph, its own platform partner bans its staff from using it, and then government takes it off the shelf entirely. It is the clearest sign yet that the most powerful AI models are no longer just products. They are becoming matters of national security, and that changes who gets to decide what you are allowed to use. Now to Adobe, the maker of Photoshop, which just had a very bad week and a very public one. On June 11, 2026, Adobe announced that its chief financial officer, Dan Durn, is leaving. And he is not just stepping back quietly. He is walking straight into a rival, the chipmaker Marvell. Wall Street did not like that a bit. Adobe stock fell by the most it has dropped in 15 months in a single day. But here is why this stung so much more than a normal executive exit. Adobe is now losing its both CFO and its CEO in the same year. Its longtime chief executive officer, Shantanu Narayan, had already announced he is stepping down from the top job. So picture the situation. This company is suddenly hunting for its two most important leaders at the very same time. And it could hardly come at a worse moment. Adobe is in the fight of its life right now, trying to prove it can survive the age of AI. As a wave of new tools lets almost anyone generate the kind of images and edits that used to require its expensive software and a very specified skill set. So think about that message this sends. You lose your money chief and your top boss at the exact moment you are trying to convince the world that you still have a future in this AI world. The product still dominates. The real question now is, who is steering the ship? Now to Perplexity, the AI search company with a refreshingly calm answer to all this IPO mania in 3 weeks. While everyone around it sprints for stock market, Perplexity CEO Arvind Srinivas said this week that his company is in no rush. It is sticking to its own plan and IPO in 2028, and not a day sooner just because the neighbors are moving fast. His words were agnostic of these two companies, and I am quoting that, "We were planning for something in 2028, so that still remains the case." But he was honest about the risk, and this is the part worth hearing. He admitted that if those giant IPOs from OpenAI and Anthropic go badly, everyone in this space feels it. His exact words are, I'm quoting again, "I certainly think there will be a ripple effect if they do not go well. Like there is no sugarcoating on this." And here is the philosophy underneath it, which I keep coming back to on this show again and again. Srinivas did not believe in reaching for the most expensive AI every single time. He put it plainly: if an open source model can get the job done 90% of the time, and if it is 10 to 20 times cheaper, he will use it. In a year where everyone is obsessed with billion-dollar models, this is a quietly radical idea. And I actually agree with him. Use the right tool for the job, not the priciest ones in the room. Now moving on to Microsoft. At Microsoft Build conference, CEO Satya Nadella made a striking claim that the company's newest AI data centers in Wisconsin uses about as much as water in a whole year as a single neighborhood restaurant. The trick is a closed loop cooling system filled with water just once that recycles it instead of evaporating it away. In his words, fill the loop once and the data center runs with almost zero water consumption. Microsoft has not released the full numbers yet, and the new design only covers new buildings, not its 500 existing ones. Is it a real breakthrough or a clever talking point? For now, it is a bit of both. For 2 years, this AI boom has been an abstract story of models and money. Now at least it's now on the data center cooling system. Okay, now let's go to a conference. Next week from June 15 to 17, the leaders of the world's 7 largest advanced economies gather for the G7 summit in France. Sitting at the table alongside the presidents and prime ministers will be the most powerful people in AI. Sam Altman from OpenAI, Dario from Anthropic, and Demis Hassabis from Google DeepMind all are confirmed. Joining them are the heads of Mistral, Cohere, Meta's AI division, and Salesforce. The entire front line of the industry in one room. The agenda is simple and pointed. The leaders are expected to focus on 2 things: protecting children online and the security risks of the most powerful frontier models that very cyber biological changes we just forcing Fable 5 to go offline this week. For most of this race, the AI companies moved fast and asked permission later. This is the moment those 2 worlds finally sit across the table. The real question is not what they announce, but who in that room is actually setting the rules. Our last story for this week is coming from Germany, but not from Silicon Valley. A robotics company called NEURA, based in a small town, Metzingen, just raised up to $1.4 billion in a single round. It is the largest amount ever raised by a full-stack robotics company, and it values NEURA at around $7 billion. The goal? The building several million humanoid robots by 2030. The backers are extraordinary: Nvidia, Amazon, Qualcomm, Bosch, even the crypto company Tether. The growth is dizzying. In 2023, NEURA raised $55 million. 3 years later, it raised over $1 billion. It is riding a wave. Money pouring into robotics hit $55.8 billion in just first half of this year, already roughly doubling what the entire sector raised in the last year. NEURA's founder David Reger put it best: for years people believed a world-changing AI company could only come out of Silicon Valley. He's a living proof that it can come from anywhere of the world. That is the perfect place to end this week. All week, the headlines were about AI on your screen, Siri in your pocket, models in the cloud, companies racing to the stock market. The next chapter is AI stepping off the screen entirely and into the physical world, as machines that can see and move and work right beside us. The AI that talks is already here. The AI that acts is what everyone in that G7 room and every investor behind NEURA is now racing to build. The question is no longer what AI can say. The question now is what we will let it do. I am Mahesh Devalla, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share and subscribe, which motivates our team to give you better analysis every week. Thanks again.